The largest brain on Earth does not belong to a human. It belongs to a predator, one that dives more than 2,000 meters into the darkness of the ocean. It hunts using sound powerful enough to stun its prey. It sleeps standing upright like a floating pillar in the water. And it fights the giant squid in total darkness. Inside its skull is a brain that can weigh over 20 pounds. By the end of this video, you'll understand why the sperm whale feels less like an animal and more like a machine built for the deep ocean. When we talk about intelligence, we usually compare our brain size to other animals. But if we rank brains by raw size, humans aren't even close. The average human brain weighs about 1.4 kilograms. A sperm whale's brain can weigh 9 kilograms or more, 6 times heavier, the largest brain of any animal known to have lived. And it sits inside a head that looks almost unnatural. Up to a third of the whale's body is just a massive block at the front of its skull. Inside that block are two unusual structures, the brain itself, and a huge wax-filled chamber called the spermaceti organ. This organ helps the whale to focus sound and control buoyancy during deep dives. In other words, its head isn't just housing a brain, it's also an acoustic system, a biological sonar device wrapped around the largest brain on Earth. But the real reason this brain matters becomes clear once the whale begins to dive. Before a deep dive, a sperm whale surfaces and breathes, massive exhalations, slow, deliberate inhalations. Then the whale tilts downward and begins to fall. Within minutes, it passes 200 meters, 500 meters. By 1,000 meters, the sunlight disappears completely. The ocean turns black, but the whale keeps going. Sperm whales regularly dive beyond 2,000 meters, more than a mile underwater. At that depth, pressure exceeds 200 times what we experience at the surface. Any air-filled space would collapse. The whale's solution is surprisingly simple. Its lungs compress. The rib cage flexes inward, allowing pressure to equalize. Meanwhile, its blood and muscles store enormous reserves of oxygen. Its muscles contain large amounts of myoglobin, a molecule that holds oxygen like a chemical battery. As the whale descends, its heart rate slows dramatically, from over 60 beats per minute to fewer than 10. This isn't just a dive, it's a controlled descent into an environment where vision becomes useless. And that enormous brain is about to rely on something far more powerful than sight. At 2,000 meters, light is gone. But sound travels beautifully through water. The sperm whale does something remarkable. It turns sound into its primary sense. Inside the whale's head, air sacs, bone and wax form a system that produces extremely powerful clicks. These clicks travel through the spermaceti organ and out into the ocean as narrow beams of sound. Single clicks can exceed 200 decibels. For comparison, a jet engine at takeoff is about 140. In water, 200 decibels isn't just loud, it's a pressure wave. The whale sends these clicks into the darkness. They strike objects and bounce back as echoes. Each echo carries information, distance, size, movement. The whale's enormous brain processes these echoes to build a three-dimensional map of the ocean around it. It isn't seeing with eyes, it's seeing with sound. When the whale closes in on prey, the clicks accelerate, tick, tick, tick. Then suddenly, a rapid burst of intense pulses. Some scientists believe these focused bursts may temporarily stun prey, overloading sensory systems and disrupting movement. In the darkness of the deep ocean, the sperm whale doesn't chase visually, it hunts with sound. But the sperm whale doesn't use sound only to hunt, it also uses it to communicate. Groups of sperm whales produce patterns of clicks called codas, not random sounds, structured sequences. Click, 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 click. Different pods repeat different patterns over and over, almost like accents. Researchers studying these whales have discovered that entire groups share the same coda patterns. Families of whales spread across thousands of kilometers recognizing each other through these rhythms. Some scientists believe sperm whales may possess something that looks very close to culture. Not language in the human sense, but a system of identity, shared signals, and learned communication passing from generation to generation through the largest brain in the ocean. In the darkness below the waves, these giants aren't silent, they are talking. So what kind of prey requires the loudest sound in the ocean to hunt? Giant squid, real ones, giant squid, and their even larger relatives, colossal squid, live in the same depths that sperm whales explore. We rarely witness these encounters, but the evidence is unmistakable. Sperm whales often surface covered in circular scars, perfect rings, left behind by squid suckers lined with tiny teeth. Some scars are larger than 4 centimeters across, and the remains of giant squid have been found inside whale stomachs. Imagine the encounter. In total darkness, the whale's sonar detects movement. Long arms, trailing tentacles. The whale closes in, clicks intensify. The squid reacts instantly, jetting away, releasing wrapping tentacles around the attacker. Those tentacles can grip with enormous force. But the scale difference is overwhelming. A large male sperm whale can weigh over 50 tons. In these silent battles far below the surface, the whale almost always wins. The largest brain on Earth directing a predator in combat with a creature we barely understand. Even when it stops hunting, the sperm whale behaves in strange ways. Most marine mammals sleep horizontally, still moving, still swimming, but sperm whales sometimes do things differently. They gather in small groups near the surface, then they slowly rotate, heads upward, bodies hanging straight down, completely vertical, motionless, floating pillars in the water. In this state, their brains partially shut down, heart rate slows, movement stops. They drift like silent towers in the ocean. Within minutes they wake, take a breath, and dive again. For an animal this large, very little in the ocean is capable of disturbing it. We tend to imagine that the most extraordinary brain belongs to us, but somewhere beneath the ocean surface is a brain 6 times heavier than our own. Guiding dives 2,000 meters deep, mapping the darkness with sound, fighting giant squid in unseen battles, and sleeping upright in the open sea. The sperm whale is a reminder that evolution doesn't always produce what we expect. Sometimes it produces animals so large, so strange, and so specialized, they almost feel impossible. Nothing about this predator is normal. Not its brain, not its dive, not the way it hunts or sleeps. Nothing is normal. Subscribe for more creatures that feel like glitches in reality.